the character Ruby Road.
Ruby Road! What is this, the fucking Wizard of Oz?
Hey, do you wanna see that movie? Do you wanna see that movie? Do you wanna see that movie?
Showtime.
You're
Welcome
so gay.
to Hey, did you ever see that movie? I'm your host, Des, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Lynn.
Negative. I am a meat popsicle.
And pinch hitting for Mickey in the number 3 position, the podcaster with a fully packed bong, Pat.
Thanks for calling me up, Coach. I won't let you down.
No, I know you won't. This week, we will be discussing the 1997 sci-fi action movie, The Fifth Element, written and directed by Luc Besson, starring Bruce Willis and Milla Jovovich, the most dangerous woman at her nuclear power plant with a dodgeball. As always, this movie will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it, then come back and listen to the podcast. And now it's time for another installment of Disaster Piece Theater. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Disaster Piece Theater, where me and my 2 co-hosts will act out one scene from the movie that we are reviewing for you this evening. So please, sit back, grab some popcorn, and enjoy the show.
Quiet on the set!
Camera speed.
Sound production, take 1.
Hey, yo, Mr. President. We're at a crisis point over here.
Your theory is interesting, Father, but I don't think we have time to get into it right now.
What? Where? Time is of no importance, Mr. President. Only life is important.
That's exactly what we're going to try to do. Protect the lives of some 200 billion of our fellow citizens, General. You may fire when ready.
Okay. All right. Now it's time for Dez's 4-in-1 fake fact, where it will be up to my 2 co-hosts to decide which fact is total bullshit. Okay, fun fact number 1. The character Ruby Road wasn't always going to be placed by Chris Tucker, with the other potential choices being Prince and Michael Jackson. Number 2. At the beginning of the film's production, Milla Jovovich had her hair continuously dyed bright orange. However, after her hair started falling out from becoming too damaged, she had to resort to a wig. Fun fact number 3. The divine language, spoken by Lilu, was invented by co-writer and director Luc Besson and Lilu, and further refined by Lilu. By the end of filming, they were able to have full conversations in this bullshit language. Number 4. Luc Besson wrote the original screenplay when he was in high school. And number 5. Philip K. Dick publicly stated that he thought stylistically the overall look of The Fifth Element was stolen from Blade Runner. Pat, which of these 5 fun facts do you think is bullshit?
I think it's number 5.
Okay. And Dylan, what do you think?
Well, I mean, there is no character named Ruby Road, so is it that one?
No. It's number 5. But I have to say that I came up with that because I believe that stylistically this movie was stolen from Blade Runner. Yes, Michael Jackson.
So I was right.
Yeah, Michael Jackson and Prince were both up for the part of Ruby Rod, but Prince was just he was just too hard to work with. He didn't want to do it. They couldn't convince him to do it, And I don't know why Michael Jackson didn't do it, but I was fine with Chris Tucker's performance.
I
So,
did hear that I read somewhere that Prince turned it down because the character Ruby Rod was too effeminate.
yes, I read the same thing.
I thought you might, because that's why I figured number 5 was the bullshit, because every other fact I actually read about. So I'm like, yay, research helps.
Yeah, it's got to be number 5. So Pat got that one right. Delynn did not get it right. So
I knew it was
kudos
number
for Pat.
5.
Kudos for Pat.
I was just busting your balls over the Ruby Road thing.
Okay, and with a budget of
You didn't do it, did you?
oh, I did it. I
You
did it.
didn't do it. It's empty.
No,
It's
I
empty.
did it. I
It's
did
in the
it.
script. It's empty. It's
Listen,
empty. He didn't do
I
it.
did it. What was the budget of Fifth Element?
According to Wikipedia, it became a box office success, grossing over $263 million, almost 3 times its budget of $90 million.
Delynn, would you like to give us a synopsis?
Yeah, because I actually got the synopsis. I'm prepared.
Oh, that's awesome.
In the 23rd century, a New York City cabbie, Corbin Dallas, finds the fate of the world in his hands when Lilu falls into his cab. As the embodiment of the fifth element, Lilu needs to combine with the other 4 to keep the approaching great evil from destroying the world. Together with Father Vito Cornelius and zany broadcaster Ruby Rod, Dallas must race against time and the wicked industrialist Zorg to save humanity.
Nice. All right, let's get some opening thoughts on this. I'll start us off. So this movie reminded me of kind of a mashup of a bunch of different movies that I love. Like I'd said before, Blade Runner, but like obviously with color and like shot during the day. Demolition Man, Judge Dredd, Total Recall. It just kind of had a little of all of these movies in it. And I love all these movies. So it's strange that I fucking hated this movie. And with the 2-hour plus runtime, it was literally brutal. Pat, what did you think?
Well, being an action fan and a science fiction fan, I enjoyed this very much. I thought Chris Tucker was absolutely hysterical. Of course, Bruce Willis was top of the line at the time. And there's like you had said, there's a lot of things that reminded me of this movie. The Earth ships that you see in the beginning of the movie very much reminded me of the Star Destroyers from Star Wars.
Yes.
I don't know. Other than that, there was very little I didn't like about the movie, so I really enjoyed doing this as a podcast.
Delynn,
Okay.
what were your opening thoughts?
So I'm going to fall somewhere in between the two of you. When I first saw the movie years ago, I loved it. Looking at it now, I definitely see some things that I don't like so much. So, watching it to review it and watching it and just enjoying it are two totally different things. And I noticed some things that I didn't care so much for. There's definitely some misogynistic moments. There's some moments where it's a little icky, and I'm like, oh. And it's kind of funny too because Ruby Rod is super effeminate, but is attracting women like flies to honey. So it's like it's not that he's like, oh well, he's effeminate so he can't get women or whatever. It's not like that at all. It's definitely more like he's just super flamboyant, right? And I appreciated that, but at the same time, the thing with Corbin kissing her when she's out cold, it's like that's not cool. Like that sucks. And and I'm sure Des will mention it later, but everyone like kind of leering at her through the whole thing is a little like, that's not so great either. Like it's definitely kind of filmed a little male gazy, and she's meant to be this all-powerful being, and that's not to say that she doesn't have her strengths and weaknesses, but I don't know, it kind of felt almost like performative female power kind of thing. So I don't know, some parts of it I really love and I still love, and some parts of it made me go a little So
All right, let's get on with the story.
I see you making faces at me because I was getting long-winded.
It's funny. I'd like to make comment though that you had brought up about the way the women are portrayed in the movie.
Mhm.
It was noticed by one critic that you don't see a woman for like the first 20 minutes of the movie. And then when you do see them, they're either sex objects or they're either just blank staring objects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because the director was French. Is that the way they looked at women at the time this was made?
Well, this
Right.
French director was engaged to the opera singer. And during the shooting of this movie, he dumped her and started a relationship with Lilu. So,
Yeah.
there
And
was some.
wasn't he involved with like a teenage girl at some point when he was
He
an
was
adult?
married to a girl. He married her when she was 16. He started dating her when she was 15. So, yes, he's
Yeah, that's
he's
not
an
cool.
interesting character. I mean, in
And they were like,
France, she was of age in France, but
and
Yeah.
from what I read, there were actually 3 women involved with this guy when this movie was being made.
correct.
Because the original actor that was going to do the Plava Laguna
Mhm.
dropped out, and his wife at the time took her place.
Correct.
And then he ended up marrying the opera singer who did the singing for Plava Laguna, only to end up marrying Milla Jovovich. And it's
Yeah.
like, and
Wow.
this was all,
Yeah, that's a bit of a mess.
yeah, it's like, wow, this guy was like really playing the field during the making of this flick.
It's a
Yeah,
little
not a
yucky.
lot of respect for females, and it comes across in the direction of this movie.
Well,
Yeah.
then I'm glad I brought it up because everything seemed to tie together, is what Delin was talking about
Yeah.
with what I had read.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot to like here, but then there's a lot of things that I'm like, oh, yeah, it didn't work for me. So let's get into
Nothing
it.
to like. There's nothing to like here. This movie is fucking trash. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, let's move on, shall we? All right.
This is going to be fun.
Every 5,000 years, in conjunction with a planetary arrangement, a great evil appears whose purpose is to destroy life. In preparation for the next appearance in 2263, a group of aliens called the Mondoshawan arrive on Earth in 1914 to extract the only weapon capable of defeating the great evil, a collection of 4 stones representing the classical elements: water, fire, earth, and air, and the eponymous 5th element that conjugates the other 4 into organic life. The stones are kept in a hidden chamber inside a small The stones are kept in a hidden chamber inside a small temple in Egypt, where an archaeologist has been studying the ruins that tell their history, completely unaware of their true meaning. He is accompanied by an artist named Billy, played by Luke Perry, who's drawing the hieroglyphs, and a priest that is secretly servicing the Mondoshawan. When Billy sees the aliens, he panics and shoots at them, trapping one of them inside the chamber that formerly housed the stones. Before the door closes, he instructs the priest to continue to train others as he was trained in order to be ready for the next great evil. He then entrusts the key to him that will reopen the chamber. The Mondoshawan depart with the stones and the 5th element. I never thought of this before after watching this movie to review it, but why didn't the priest just use the key to open the door and let the guy out?
Yeah.
like you got to leave him in there to die. You could just you're holding the key. Open
Well, I
the
think he
door,
was
let him
crushed.
out.
Looked like he was crushed by the door.
I think it's just his
And
hand, but maybe
actually,
it
I
was his whole
think his
self.
hand may have been blocking where you put the key in.
Ah,
Yeah.
That
maybe.
could have been it.
I don't think that the alien wanted to be saved. It seemed like
No,
the
I don't
alien
think
was
so.
really dead set on like dying in that chamber. But you'll notice the alien's not in the chamber when we get back in there in the future. So I thought that was strange.
Yeah, somebody moved him at some point.
Some point somebody got in there.
Oh, yeah.
So the movie starts off with this cool intro that reminded me of the Star Destroyer in the intro of Star Wars, or as it comes overhead as it's
Yes.
chasing the custodian or whatever the fuck that Leia's ship was called.
Mhm.
And we're gonna get a whole bunch of these scenes in this movie that remind me of other movies.
Well, yeah,
Then
I
we're
mean,
gonna
he
get
said that he liked Star Wars, and that was part of the reason why he wrote this to begin with. So,
yeah. Then we're gonna get this Egyptian scene that reminded me of Stargate. Okay. Um, I get my first pleasant surprise here, and it's going to be a young Luke Perry. I am embarrassed to say that I loved him in 90210 as Dylan. Yeah, I did. Um, and he's great, and he's putting on a great performance in this scene. And all that goes through my mind is the acting was so fucking thin in this movie. You've got Luke Perry, and you're going to use him for 4.5 minutes. Like, give this guy a bigger role, and let's keep him in the movie. I mean, it made no sense to me.
It might have been a situation where he only had a certain time period that he could do something.
Yeah,
so the guy
maybe.
True.
to do it. But I agree with you. I would rather have had him be a bigger role.
Yeah, he was also in a movie called 8 Seconds that's really good if you are looking for something with Luke Perry in it to check out. It's an excellent performance. And I love how he's marking down how many times the archaeologist yells at the kid for the
Yeah.
light. Like, he's supposed to be taking notes, and he's like doodling and writing like little checks on how many times.
Aziz, light.
Yeah. Next, we get some exposition about the movie, setting it up. And then another shot of the spaceship exiting the temple, which again reminded me a lot of Stargate. And the aliens were like these steampunk penguin duck type things, really odd looking. And then when they're finally leaving with the fifth element, I mean, this is Han Solo frozen in carbonite. I mean, it is. This is Boba Fett leaving
Fair.
with Han Solo in carbonite. I mean, it just is.
Totally
So,
fair.
After this first scene, I'm like thinking, all right, I'm in. This is going to be a great movie. And then we get scene 2. Go ahead, Pat. What'd you think of this opening scene?
I enjoyed the opening scene. It was, I don't know, it was funny watching Luke Perry as he's sitting there because he seems so bored. The professor's pointing out, get the snake. Make sure you get the snake. And they show that Luke Perry's just sitting there drawing a boat in his sketchbook. He's not even caring about what the professor's saying. The kid falling asleep, holding the mirror for the light, Aziz. It was so funny. How long was this kid holding that thing up for him to be falling asleep with this thing in his hands?
Right.
So I happen to notice that if you look at the pad of paper that's underneath the doodle of the boat, you can see the hieroglyphs. So he had already drawn the hieroglyphs exactly as they were on the wall.
Yep.
And clearly the professor is just like, and droning on and on. So they've been there for hours. And that's why at this point, he's keeping track of Aziz light and he's drawing boats because he's already done what he was there to do. But he's
Right.
stuck there until the guy's done.
That's
Yeah,
good
I noticed
observation.
that too. I did notice that as the second time I watched it. I'm like, oh yeah, he didn't have to worry about the snake because you could see how good the drawings were
Yeah.
underneath the boat.
Yeah. I like the Luke Perry character a lot. Again, I wish he had a bigger role in this movie.
Yeah. I agree.
So then, what'd you think of the opening scenes?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like you said, there's a lot of callback to a lot of different things here. And it's like, we've seen Egypt before. Could you maybe have done it like Aztec? Like throw something a little different at us, I would have appreciated that. But it's serviceable. It gets the job done. I never quite understood why these aliens were coming to take this weapon away. They said it wasn't safe, but I mean, maybe it wasn't. I mean, look what happened. But yeah, I mean, again, like you said, there's a lot of borrowing from other movies here, but nothing so egregious that it was like obnoxious.
Look what happened. Nothing happened. Fucking John McClane fucked the fucking Fifth Element in a tanning bed. That's what happened.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's what happened. Sure. That's what happened. That's the whole point of the
Wow.
movie. Shut up.
Okay.
God. Rooting around for Ramona. Anyways,
we have to expect this. We already know he doesn't like the movie.
I mean, you can just do a review without it being about that.
Yeah.
But
Don't worry
anyways.
about what my review is going to be.
Anyways, 300
coming
years
from
later.
two people that shit all over Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi in their prime in Neighbors. We're gonna
I didn't
fucking put
shit all
on
over
kid
them.
gloves. We're gonna put on
I
kid
definitely
gloves for
did
this
not
piece
shit
of
all over them.
shit.
Go back and listen to it. I did not
Oh,
shit all over them.
I saw where it landed on our fucking movie fucking list. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that might have been
one-
my fault.
Didn't spend an hour raking it over the coals, and now you're just doing it because you're like it's some sort of like payback. Like, grow up.
Oh no, I'm doing it because this movie is a fucking hot mess. Okay. Next
Also,
scene.
can we talk about the fact that you think a cult classic is any movie that's popular?
Okay.
Can we just bring this up for a second? We had to have a conversation about what a cult classic is. He was like, I was like, we should do a couple cult classics. He's like, well, that's pretty much all we do. And I'm like, no, we're doing popular movies. You need to do a cult classic. He's like, well, and he started like naming movies that were like Star Wars. Star Wars is not a cult classic.
I never said Star Wars. You're making things up.
Oh, jeez. Here we go.
Okay. Can you take out the cleaver and get us through the next scene?
Oh, God. 300 years later, in 2263, the great evil appears, and in the form of a fiery planet. When the battleship fires missiles on the planet doubles in size and then destroys the Earth ships. Back on Earth, the world's president, played by Tom Lister Jr., also known as Debo, consults with his military, science, and religious advisors about the approaching planetoid. Priest Cornelius, played by Ian Holm, warns the president that the planetoid might be something that they can't understand and explain about the Four Stones and the Fifth Element. When the Mondashauans attempt to deliver the elements back to Earth, they are ambushed by another alien race, the shape-shifting Mangalores. The president is informed that the stones are not at the crash site, but instead were given by the Mondashauans to someone they could trust. The diva, Plava Laguna, played by Mae Wen, will be performing on a leisure planet called Lost in Paradise, and she has the stones. So, honey, you go ahead and say all you have to say about the president of Earth being played by Depot.
Well, so we leave ancient Egypt, and at this point, I'm liking this movie, and then we get 300 years into the future. Oh. And the rest of my evening is ruined as I trudge through the rest of this movie begrudgingly. So on the bridge of this ship, we're going to see Debo from Friday playing the president and Leon, the dumbest alien from Blade Runner, as his general. Listen to these two idiots fucking a football. If these are the two leaders of Earth now, I'm rooting for this evil orb to destroy humanity. This is fucking brutal. Listening to this, I don't know, Pat, go.
Now, the Blade Runner crony you're talking about, that was played by Brian James, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so that was General Monroe.
Yeah.
If you think about it, as you're watching the movie, Debo and the president was the only male in the movie other than Corbin Dallas that wasn't so effeminate that they could have been women. They could have been transgender. I read that it was actually made that way. All the male characters were made to be very non-masculine. Mm-hmm. So Corbin Dallas would be like the studly hero and godlike.
Yeah, our balding perverted hero, Corbin Dallas. Okay. Delynn, what'd you think?
I mean, it's setting it up. You get the idea from Cornelius. He's been trained. He's now the counterpart of the priest from Egypt, and he's the guy that's on watch. And he knows what's going on. He knows what year it is, and he's ready. So, it's just basically a good setup scene to let you know where we're at.
Yeah, and he's telling the president and the generals, don't shoot at this thing. You're just going to make it stronger. And I don't even know why he's on the bridge, because they're like, shut up, fire. I'm like, okay, perfect. This is it. Just perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, God. The way I delivered that line was 10 times better than the way it was actually delivered, though. It was like, oh, God.
Oh, dear.
So
you better hope that Debo never hears that and comes and beats you up.
I'm sure Debo knows. I'm sure Debo knows.
Is he? Is he dead?
Yeah, I
don't know.
I'm
Him
not
and
sure.
Tony Cruz.
Oh, well,
Maybe.
Debo's gonna haunt you then.
Well, I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people from this movie are dead. Actually, I had read something else about a lot of left-handed actors in this movie, and I don't know
Really?
if that was done intentionally. I think maybe it was. Um, Also, I had read that the director did 300 interviews before choosing um, the actress that would ultimately play Lilu.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
they looked at 300 different actresses before they settled on
Jeez.
her. I actually watched Dazed and Confused last night, and she's in it as a young teenager. And yeah, she was great. Now she's a very pretty girl in everything she does,
Yeah.
except
Gorgeous.
this.
I love watching her killing zombies in all the Resident Evil movies. So,
Yeah.
Well, those were made after this,
of
right?
course. Oh yeah, yeah.
I was going to say
Way,
'cause
way.
I didn't see Dazed, so my first thought was this like one of her first movies? Because she
No.
definitely looked a lot younger than the Resident Evil stuff.
Yeah, no, this is early for her, but I think Dazed and Confused was prior to this too. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I would
thought
have
she
to
was
check
very
for
pretty
sure,
in this
but
movie until she actually started talking. And I was just like, oh God. I would literally put a bullet in her head if I was Dallas Corbin 2 seconds
oh, you
after
would
meeting
not
her.
Oh my
stop
God.
it.
Okay,
You were-
bring us to John McClane's apartment.
This is a
It's so
man who
brutal.
saves flies that are dying. He gives them water with a little bit of sugar in it and sends them on their way. And he's like, I'd put a bullet in her head. No, you wouldn't. Stop it. Stop.
Oh my God.
It's true. I have
Jesus.
nursed insects back to health.
He has. I've seen it.
Okay.
Okay,
Jesus.
anyways. Since the fifth element was coming to Earth on the ship that was destroyed, they attempt to recover what they can. All they can find is a hand, but there are enough live cells there that they're able to recreate what made up the hand. It takes the form of a human woman, who we later learn is named Lilu, played by Milla Jovovich. Lilu, traumatized from the spaceship attack and at the unfamiliar surroundings in the lab, escapes and ends up jumping off a building, landing herself in the back of a cab driven by a man named Corbin Dallas, played by Bruce Willis. Dallas is a former major in the Federated Army's Special Services. After a police chase, Dallas brings her to the priest Vito Cornelius, the current guardian of the Mondoshawan's knowledge. Dallas, Cornelius, and his acolyte David help Lilu recover, although Dallas is forced out of Cornelius' apartment before learning her purpose. Cornelius learns from Lilu that the four elements were not held by the Mondoshawans and that Lilu must recover the stones from the diva. Meanwhile, wealthy industrialist Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg, played by Gary Oldman, has attempted to gain the stones as urged by communication with the Great Evil. After learning that the Mangalores' attack on the Mondoshawans was unsuccessful in recovering the stones, Zorg betrays and kills them, whereupon the surviving Mangalores decide to exact revenge and gain the stones for themselves. So this, oh my goodness.
This fucking guy, man.
Okay, back to it. All right. So this part here, when they
He's on the phone with our boss right now.
Okay, so this is one of the things that I really love about this movie that they do so well is they're telling one story, but you're seeing it from 3 or 4 different places and 3 or 4 different timelines, but they're telling you the same story all from the start to the end. So you are learning at the same time that he doesn't have the stones, and then she's like, oh, I know where they are, and she's laughing because she knows that he doesn't have the stones even though he attacked her. So like you're seeing like the different reactions to things happening even though they're not all in the same scene, and it's edited very cleverly so that it all works out. And they do this a couple times to really good effect in this movie.
Yeah. So in John McClane's apartment, before any of this stuff happens,
Mhm.
we're going to get some exposition that's telling us, like you said, that he's a soldier and all that. And then we're going to get a mugger that comes to his door
Oh, yeah,
wearing a
mugger.
hat that fucking looks like the street outside. This is my favorite part of the entire movie. And if I even give it a quarter of a rewatch score, it will be for this performance from this tweaker. He's yeah, oh, yeah. Like this fucking guy he's so good. This acting performance is so good. It's so fun. I just wish that there was more of this in the movie. It's just more good performances that were entertaining. instead of this, like, oh my God, they're cramming this Lilu fucking John McClane thing down my throat. Like it's going to be this amazing, charming love story. It's not. It's fucking not. It's nauseating. I can't stand it. When the starship goes down, it's not the best CGI. It's a strange mashup of like Flash Gordon and Star Wars and Demolition Man, and it's just like it's just this goulash. It doesn't taste good to me. The regeneration of Lilu when we're in the lab. This feels like fucking Gary and Wyatt from Weird Science inventing the perfect woman with like bras on their heads. Like, Wyatt, give her some bigger boobs. Like, make her hair orange. Like, it's she comes out. She think it comes out. They're all like gawking at her, like she's in high tops and gym shorts.
None of
It's
that
like
happened.
all that happened. And then fucking the guy comes over and he's like looking in at her like, "Hi, little lady, you need this to get out of that chamber." Like, oh God, I wanted her to punch a fucking hole in Leon's face, tear all those perverted little scientists to pieces and escape and save the world. But no, Fifth Element can't do that because the Fifth Element is Corbin's love and his little fucking teeny weeny. Without that, the Fifth Element can't do its job. Nah, no, it needs Corbin's manhood, his man seed to work. It's fucking
Ew.
yeah, exactly. Ew. This movie is trash. So Leilu jumps from this building and she lands in the cab. It looks like Blade Runner, the city, but in the middle of the day. It doesn't look nearly as good as Blade Runner. And that is with the advantage of it being shot 20 years later. Blade Runner looked 1,000 times better. Once she's in Corbin's cab, she starts fucking babbling and yelling in whatever this fucking divine language is that they're calling this the divine language. Okay. I'm literally at this point yelling at my TV, shut up, like over and over. And then after she says bada boom for like the third time, I'm like, you say bada boom one more time. And I'm shutting the movie off and canceling the podcast. Then she fucking takes it one step further and reads off a little sticker, "Bleed, help me." And I'm like, oh, it was cute when E.T. did it. Fuck you. Oh, I want to throw the remote through the television. And the cab chase is like a fucking Sega CD game from 1996. Oh, and we're like 20 minutes into the movie and it's got a 2+ hour runtime. And I'm thinking there's no way I'm going to make it. But I did. Pat, what did you think of this?
Wow. That's going
Please
to be tough to follow.
help. Bada boom. Yeah, bada boom. Hey.
You done?
Yeah.
Well, the start of the scene when Corbin is looking out into the bay where his cab is, it's funny because you see the tiny little screen. It's like the peephole, and all you see is that incredible hat that Tweaker's wearing on the other side of the door. And my first question was, how the hell did he get in there?
Yeah,
where?
I mean,
don't
think
know.
about it. It's a hangar for the cab. The only way into that hangar is through the apartment door that Corbin's in. But I'm only trying to lighten the mood after that devastating blow Des
Well,
gave.
did you notice all the guns that Corbin had collected when he
Mhm.
takes
Yeah.
the gun
That
from
means
the guy?
this happens regularly.
This
But-
seems to happen regularly.
And my
yes.
question is this the first time that he's actually taken a gun off that in particular tweaker?
No.
Yeah, I got the impression they were
knew
doing
each
this on the
other.
reg. Yeah, they knew each other. Exactly.
quite well because Corbin wasn't even phased, and the tweaker, it's like he's not freaking out that he got caught. He's dancing and telling him how much he likes the hat and do you want the hat. I'm like, wow, this guy's probably one of the funniest characters in the movie.
I wish I had got the feeling that this movie was self-aware about how bad it was. And like, kind of like the way we were getting it in other movies we've done, like, Big Trouble in Little China, or um, there was another one we did that was like tons of satire, where the movie knew what it was and it was charming. Like, I felt like this movie thought it was something that it wasn't, and it was trying to sell me a bill of goods that I just was not willing to buy.
Yeah, it's fair. Honestly, it's fair, because like I said, looking at it now, especially with a reviewer's eye, I definitely see a lot of the flaws in it that I
Oh yeah.
had not previously noticed. Themes that I don't care for, like she's a manic pixie dream girl, and she falls into his cab. Like, it's like, that's like legitimately like the trope of a manic pixie dream girl. And it's like, okay. Like, when I stop and look at it that way, it's kind of like, oh, that's a little, and it's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to like here. And there's things that I enjoy. Like, I love the diva. I love a lot of other things. The costumes. I mean, let's just mention for a minute, Jean Paul Gaultier did every single costume for this,
Yeah.
and the costumes are outstanding. And it's like, even that little strappy thing that the thermal bandages or whatever, that looks like a Jean Paul Gaultier garment, because it is.
Yeah, he said
What? What are you
No,
laughing
it's
at?
no, it's the outfit again was just so strange to me. It was like it was supposed to be these thermal bandages, but it's like this sexy outfit to accentuate the Fifth Element. It was like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. The Fifth Element should have whooped all their asses for putting her in that fucking thing. First of all,
I'd watch that.
yeah,
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Oh God, yeah.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
I have to say, I have to admit, the beginning of the movie wasn't anywhere near as entertaining as the middle and end of the movie, especially the end of the movie once they get on, they get to Floss in Paradise, because there's more action, there's more gunfire.
There's more everything.
Yeah, exactly. And there are things about Lilu that, and the scenes, like when she breaks through the unbreakable glass.
Mhm.
How the hell does she know how to open the damn thing in the begin with? Her hand's fumbling at switches, and she just miraculously finds the one that opens the damn thing up. Never mind the fact the wall she went through looked like tinfoil.
Yeah. How is it that fucking something like the Supreme Being has so much power in some parts, but then you get her on the cruise ship and she just can't survive without Corbin Dallas fucking throwing her over his shoulder and taking her to safety? It's like, fuck. I wish she had ripped his asshole out of his mouth in the
Holy
apartment.
shit. That's
So
pretty graphic.
I watched a YouTube video that did a comparison between this and the animated movie Heavy Metal, and it's almost ripped off note for note. Now,
Really?
if you get a chance, watch it. It's kind of interesting because they will break down like one scene from Heavy Metal. It's a cab driver. He looks just like Dallas Corbin. The woman goes into his cab. They take off. Like, it is almost shot scene
Weird.
for scene off
Well,
of Heavy Metal the movie. So if you get a chance, I would suggest going and checking that out. Heavy Metal the movie compared to the
Right.
Fifth Element, and you'll be very, very surprised. It almost looks like one of those, drawing boards when they're, sketching out a
Storyboard.
movie, a storyboard.
yeah.
It's very, very similar. So yeah, I thought that was
Interesting. I'll definitely
Yep.
look that up because I'm curious.
Yeah,
yeah.
me
I'm
too.
passionate. I'm passionate about how bad this movie is.
Yes, that is quite
So
obvious.
take us into the priest's apartment.
All right. So let's see. Where are we? Okay. Well, do you want to talk about in the priest's apartment? Because I'm going back to Dallas in this next scene. So
Well, in the priest's apartment, it's kind of fun. The priest, the guy who played the priest was a very good actor, and there were some good acting performances as him, Luke Perry, the tweaker was great. I
Vito
liked
Cornelius,
his,
he does the thing with the bomb, and like it's good. Yeah. He's good. He's
Yeah.
really
Ian
good.
Holm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the actor, Ian Holm.
and we're going to get to Gary Oldman. Now, one of the things I think they made a mistake was I wish they had picked a different person in the beginning to be doing the sketches in Luke Perry's role. and had Luke Perry been this priest's understudy. And we
Right.
could have had Luke Perry through the rest of the movie. It was
You could have
a
actually
missed
switched.
opportunity.
Yeah,
You
you
it
could
was a
flip
switch
missed
them.
the
opportunity.
actors, and it would have been better. Because
Christ,
to
I
be
would have
honest with
rather
you,
have had Luke Perry as Corbin Dallas, frankly.
Yes, I absolutely would have too. I did not like I'm a big Bruce Willis fan. I love Bruce Willis. He was sweaty and gross and creepy in this movie. He did not work for me as the leading man in this movie.
Mel
It just didn't.
Gibson was also someone who they thought might do this role. He was perspective for it.
I would have rather seen that. But you know what? Nobody was going to work because the movie was bad. And there were a lot of bad choices made for actors. I mean, you're not going to make a good movie with some of the choices they made. The movie just failed on so many levels for me. And it's funny because I did a lot of research for this, listened to a lot of podcasts. People love this movie. They love this movie. I
Yeah.
couldn't find a podcast with people that didn't like this movie. They all swooned over it. I couldn't get it. And, maybe I'm an outlier here. Everybody doesn't see everything the same way. And that's why we do these podcasts. Like, for instance, you two Magoos couldn't see the fucking brilliance of Neighbors with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, which should be at the top of our list. But unfortunately, it's third from the bottom.
I believe this is what's called the Revenge podcast.
Yeah.
When Corbin basically God, when he starts like trying to stick his tongue in Lilu's mouth while she's unconscious on the couch, I'm like, he doesn't even know if she likes him. It's fucking gross. And she fucking pulls the gun on him, and I wish she had pulled the trigger. Would have ended this movie, put me out of my misery. All right, go ahead, Dylan. Let's keep rocking this fucking piece
I
of
100% agree. That's being unconscious, being unable to say no is not consent. So that is yucky, and I think that she should have at least given him a pistol whipping for it. Honestly.
Yeah, and the director's trying to sell me that this is a charming fucking like rom-com, and it's not.
Yeah, I mean, that's not cool. Not cool. All right, so
I would like to mention that there, like we were saying, Des obviously has a lot of things he feels are just absurd about this movie. And there is one thing that I thought was just, I mean, it's a science fiction movie. You can't take it for face value any other than it's just somebody's fantasy. And you kind of really pushed it too far when you put these little pellets in what looks like a giant microwave, and out pops this enormous bowl of food, a giant bird, vegetables, potatoes. I'm like, oh, come on, man.
No, because this is stolen, like everything in this movie is stolen from something else, because this is just a fucking...
Back to the Future.
It's from Back to the Future. I said, as soon as he did it, I'm like, this is Back to the Future 3 or 2.
But I do, in the movie's defense, this movie come out in 97. When did Back to the Future come out? The second one, because that's what this was from.
It's the second one with the rehydrated food.
The rehydrated pizza, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it goes in like a silver dollar and comes out like a Domino's.
1989.
Yeah, 89. This guy doesn't have this guy doesn't have an original thought in his head when he was writing this movie. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah. So we're going to go back to Corbin's apartment.
Yes. So here we go. Hold on, I gotta back up now. No, hey! Okay, Dallas is later met at his apartment by General Monroe, played by Brian James, who informs him that he has been drafted back into the Army in order to travel to meet the Diva, having rigged the annual Gemini croquet contest to get Dallas to Floston to recover the stones. Their meeting is interrupted by the arrival of Cornelius and Lilu. Dallas, learning of Lilu's needs, offers to help, but is knocked out by Cornelius, who steals his winning transportation tickets and departs. Dallas accepts the job from General Monroe and travels to JFK International Airport, intercepting Cornelius, David, and Lilu before they board their flight. He ends up escorting Lilu instead. Cornelius instructs David to prepare the temple in Egypt and then sneaks aboard the passenger spaceplane before it leaves. So I know that there's a lot that's happening here, so we'll just pause here for a second. I loved the food vendor that stops right at Corbin's window, and it's like a Chinese ship. I'm like, this is great. But that was very Blade Runner.
Yeah, he's sitting there eating noodles in a fucking noodle cart again. It's just another scene from another movie put into this movie. Oh God. Yeah, it's fucking brutal, man. It's fucking brutal. I did like Corbin's mom. I thought
She's
she was
funny.
she was funny through this. So I had written here our balding hero returns home. He's
Hero
our
returns.
balding hero returns home. He's laying on his like plastic covered bed on the phone with his friend Fingers. Oh, and he's describing Lilu to him like, dude, did you finger her? Like, it was just gross. Like, he's describing her.
man.
It was so gross.
God.
Dude,
That's
I was
nasty.
I was skeeved out by the whole thing. The way he's describing her to Fingers is like, dude, tell me more. He's like, oh man, she's fucking perfect. But they're like, she's got this body like it was gross. Do you guys know who the voice of Fingers was?
Yes.
No.
Yes, I do. And I
Fucking-
was going to throw that at you simply
Yeah.
because it's someone you don't like,
Yeah.
Vin Diesel.
It's fucking Vin Diesel. He's not
Yep.
credited, but yeah, it's Vin Diesel.
Yeah, and I went back and listened to it again after hearing that, reading that it was him, and I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. It is Vin Diesel.
Yeah, so after we get the noodle scene that is ripped off from Blade Runner, then we're gonna get the airport scene from fucking Total Recall. Right down to the guy's head shaking and almost fucking revealing that it's an alien trying to play Corbin.
Oh my
I'm like,
God.
this is right out of Total Recall.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting to see
Wow.
an original scene that came out of this man's imagination. It has yet to happen.
Wow. Tell us how you feel.
So he puts the he gets the phone calls saying they're going to put him back in the military here. His mom's on the phone. You know, this is where she tells him he won the trip on the Star
Yes.
Cruiser, and he's
Big
saying,
ape.
"Yeah, had I won a trip, I would have heard about it on the radio. 2 seconds later, you hear it on the radio." You know, I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
they
And I
did
love
the
the
same
mail.
thing.
The mail boop dropping in your house. And I
Yes.
was like, that's pretty cool. And every time
Yeah.
the mail comes, it's bad news. And
Yeah,
you're fired. Like,
That was awesome.
but again, that's right out of Back to the Future where he gets the fucking
Yeah.
thing.
Oh my
You're
God, you're right.
fired.
You're right.
you get the
It's-
fax saying you're fired.
It just happens too many times to be ignored. And it's even with taking from all these great movies, it's not creating a great movie.
Right. Right.
It's funny you bring up with the email system because it's really funny when General Monroe is in Corbin's apartment and he's talking about how, well, it's great. You seem to have settled into a nice life. And they're talking about the mission. And it's funny as hell. Brian James, did you check your mail? And as soon as he says
Yeah.
that, the prize winner envelope drops down. Might be important.
Yeah. Yeah.
You won the contest.
Yeah. He shuffles them all into the freezer. I'm just going,
Impossible.
fucking break. They're frozen solid, and I'm just saying, please let them be dead. They weren't. Oh God.
I'd like to mention that Major Iceborg looked like Princess Leia. Just
I wrote
mutated.
down
100%. They
giant-
used her space bun.
a
Oh, yeah.
giant, thick Princess Leia.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, good God. Okay.
All right. Okay. On the flight, Dallas meets interstellar radio personality Ruby Rod, played by Chris Tucker, who escorts him as the contest winner. Upon arrival at Floston Paradise, Dallas is taken by Ruby to prepare for the show, while Lilu waits near the Diva's quarters in order to retrieve the stones from her after her performance. The Diva's show is interrupted by the Mangalores, and the Diva is fatally shot. Dallas learns from her dying words that the Diva has hidden the stones inside of her body. After she dies, Dallas removes them from her abdomen, giving them to Ruby to hold as he defeats the Mangalores and saves the rest of the passengers and crew. Lilu witnesses the Mangalores ransacking the Diva's room, and still angry about them attacking her and the Mondos, she kicks their asses. Zorg, having flown himself to Floston, fights Lilu in the Diva's quarters, injuring her and forcing her to retreat up into the air ducts. He takes the case he believes contains the stones while starting a time bomb. When Dallas goes to recover Lilu, Zorg finds the case to be empty. Zorg re-enters the liner just as Dallas, Lilu, Cornelius, and Ruby leave it on Zorg's ship while the rest of the passengers escape in the emergency crafts. Zorg is able to stop the bomb, but the defeated Mangalores activate yet another bomb, and it destroys Zorg and the liner completely.
So we meet General Zorg, or arms dealer Zorg. He's not a general. Arms dealer Zorg.
Yeah. He's a
Um,
businessman.
Yeah, businessman.
Businessman. Yeah.
Played by Gary Oldman. And there's some strange costume design going on here with a little Tupperware thing on his head. For
Yeah.
anybody who knows, metal, he was looking a little like Tracy Guns in the Ballad of Jane video in this.
Sure. Yeah.
But finally,
True.
something that didn't suck. I love that he's an arms dealer. I love the gun that he's pushing on the aliens. It's cool. Kind of like the gun that Surge has in
Yes.
Beverly Hills Cop. It does
Yes.
everything except have
Yes.
a radio on it.
It looked just as absurd.
Yeah. So Gary Oldman is amazing here. I mean, this guy has chops for days. He's out of place in this movie because he's honestly just way too good for this peanut butter sandwich of a fucking movie. So he kind of revises this character again later on down the road in a movie called The Book of Eli. I mean, it's not the exact same character, but it's similar.
Yes.
And
Or-
yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
He was a
Fun
good
fact,
villain.
he did not want to do this role.
Yes, I read that too. He did it as
he
a
did it
favor
because they
to
were
the
going to
director.
give him funding for something he wanted to do.
Yeah,
Right,
and if he was on
right.
this podcast, he would agree with me that this movie is a fucking pile of steaming dog shit.
You know,
he
it's
won't
funny.
even talk about it.
It's funny you say that because there were interviews done after the movie with Bruce Willis, Milla Jovovich, and I want to say who was the other, and Chris Tucker, and they all said the same thing, that they had a really good time and they enjoyed making the movie. Whereas an interview with Gary Oldman says he couldn't wait for it to be done. He hated it.
Because he knew
Yeah.
it was terrible, and it was a mark on his career. Because this movie is unwatchable. So we meet Ruby
There's also
Road.
a
and-
point. Wait a second. There's also a point that where you realize that he's not in any of the scenes with them. Like, he is pretty much acting with himself most of the time. He's either talking to the evil, or he's dealing with the Mangalores,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
he's in a ship by himself, or he's on the phone. Like, he probably was by himself the whole time. It wasn't like he was hanging out with the three of them while they were, filming.
Yeah. And I'd like to point out that it's one of the few movies where the villain and the good guy don't actually meet at any point in the entire movie.
That's because Zorg isn't even really the villain. He's
No,
just
the
the
evil is.
guy. And he
Yeah.
doesn't really do much in this movie. When he finally dies, I'm like, that's it? You're killing the best character in the movie? He's done nothing except sold some aliens some guns and put a clever button on it that's going to kill them all. Why did he even put the button on it? I don't know. Is it like the keychain that fucking Surge gives fucking Axel? Is like, you push the button and the flash comes out. I don't know. But we get on this fucking cruise ship with a bunch of, oh God, there's going to be a gunfight, and the crew of the ship is in these tiny little cotton outfits that look like they were washed in hot water and shrank down too small. It's dude. So Corbin gets on the fucking cruise ship, and I thought the cruise ship looked great. I did.
Oh, yeah.
I thought the cruise
Absolutely.
ship was cool. But again, it's such a mashup of different looks in this movie. Like, some of the people are using phones that have cords. Others are using cell phones. Sometimes the movie looks dark and gritty and kind of dirty. Sometimes the movie looks like steampunk. Sometimes it looks like Demolition Man. This movie does not know what it wants to be. It doesn't. So he gets on this ship. He's with Leilu. I'm kind of following what's going on, sort of. And the next thing you know, he's separated from Leilu, and he's with Chris Tucker, and he's Ruby Red doing whatever the fuck. And I'm just like, whoa, what's happening now? And they're traveling through the halls, and Ruby Red is babbling incoherently, and I don't know what's going on. Ruby Red is like making stewardesses fucking panties wet by talking to them very closely, and the women are like,
Okay, back it
dude,
up.
it's so fucking bizarre. It's so bizarre. He has the gift of like making the dude. What is going on here? Explain.
Ruby Rod is a popular media character.
Oh wait,
Not unlike someone as simple as Howard Stern.
right.
He's worshipped by his audience. And this
So
is where he gets his showmanship.
Dylan, you're offended by my description of Ruby Red and the women, but we're actually going to get a scene where he is performing fellatio on one of the stewardesses, and her feet are up in the air as he's
Call me Ruby.
It wasn't
Dude.
that I was not offended by your it was you were getting very in close to the microphone and making lewd noises directly into the microphone, so it's going to sound like shit. So that's what I was like, settle down, relax. That's why I was saying that. It wasn't that it was that Ruby Rod was filleting women. That's okay. Like if they're two
Was it?
grown adults, consenting adults, what's the problem?
Just the problem is I got tired of seeing it after about one time. Like, I didn't need a half an hour of Ruby Road making women melt.
His
I
name
was
is not
good.
Ruby Road.
Whatever.
He doesn't care.
I don't give a
He
shit.
doesn't care.
So I realized that I'm going to have to sit through a Ruby Road concert. And this is where I just grabbed the controller and just started fast forwarding this movie. I'm like, I can't watch a Ruby Road show. I can't do it. I did stop for the opera singer though. Very clever, very well done. It was a flash in the pan, kind of like the mugger outside Corbin's door.
That's a good
Okay.
scene. I love that scene.
Yes.
The opera
Agreed.
scene? Opera scene's awesome. The opera singer, I'm trying to remember her name was, oh God, I wish I could remember.
I can tell
have
you
to
because
look
I wrote
for
it down.
I know,
It's,
I have to look for it.
So the opera singer saw the sheet music.
Her name was Inva Mula. I'm sure that's not pronounced correctly, but she is an actual opera singer, and the opera she sang was an actual opera. It was an Italian opera, like Act 3, Scene 1 of some opera. And all the notes, even though you could tell as she went more upbeat after the opera part, she actually sang all the notes, but she obviously couldn't sing them the way they were arranged. So all the notes were digitally remastered once it got into the upbeat hip hop kind of thing.
What she actually did was they recorded it one note at a time and then strung it all together. No human can sing that piece of music. It's not possible.
Right.
There's
She
people
looked
that
at the
do it.
sheet.
You can go online and see people that do it.
They can try. She looked at this sheet music and said, this isn't possible. This can't be done. There's notes in here that can't be hit, and it definitely can't all be sung in one shot. But I thought that was cool because she's an alien. So the fact that they put it together, it sounded a little weird because it was strung together note by note, and it gave it kind of an alien feel to it.
Exactly.
And again, this scene was better than the movie. So it stood out as an outlier in the movie. I enjoyed it.
Well, another bonus to the scene is the opera house was an actual opera house where they filmed this scene. So it wasn't just a stage that was elaborately built. The opera house itself was so elaborate and so decorative. It was a perfect setting for this scene in this movie. And the fact that it starts out as a very soft opera and it just grabs the audience, and you can see the reaction of Corbin Dallas as he's listening to this. He's becoming more and more hypnotized by it. He's listening to the opera, and then it kicks up a notch, and now this is where her being an alien makes the rest of this scene acceptable. I mean, obviously no human can make these sounds, but she is an alien. And yes, she's an opera singer, but she's more than that because she's an alien.
Right.
It was my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah, mine too, except for the tweaker at the door. This is my second favorite. You know what, though, Pat? There's no way this director was clever enough to actually have thought of anything you just said. It was all an accident.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
So here she's going to tell Corbin as she's dying that the stones are in her. And she says, She needs your love to save the
God.
planet. Oh, fuck you. She doesn't need his love to save the planet. Fucking, they were like, yeah, they put her in that sarcophagus and were like, as long as she bumps into a balding, sleazy fucking cab driver, the world is going to be saved. Like, what? Okay. Okay. So did we see Zorg choke on the cherry pit yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
So the great scene. He's got a little fucking contraption on his desk for everything. Like,
I
I mean,
know.
something that does everything, but he doesn't have something that
Everything.
pulls a cherry pit out of his fucking throat. And I wasn't sure what I thought about the priest saving his life. What did you guys think?
I think that he says time is not important, life is important, and he lives by that.
I do like, though, that Zorg was a man of some honor, and he says, "You saved my life, so I'm going to spare yours."
For
And I
now.
thought that was pretty good. And have we got the scene with the cockroach on the desk yet?
Yes.
Okay, so
That was absurd.
in this, but that was actually clever. And finally, we get an original thought from this director. It's a bug in a bug. I liked it. So, General Leon is explaining the plot to President Debo.
Hang on. I gotta ask. Leon, I'm guessing that's the Blade Runner name?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That now I understand, because
And
obviously it's General Monroe, but
Yeah.
you're laughing as you say General Leon.
And
so
I
I'm
loved
like,
Leon.
It's gotta be that.
I loved Leon in Blade Runner. He was great. Is the muscle of the Blade Runners. He was written in as the dumbest but the most powerful of the Blade Runners. So he was great. But I don't want to hear the strategy for saving the universe coming from Leon. Like,
I hate to be the person that tells you this, but they're not Blade Runners. They're replicants.
okay, you know,
Decker's the Blade Runner.
don't hold me to the fire.
Oh,
Nobody's
I'm holding
seen.
ya. Oh,
No.
I'm holding you.
First of all,
I am
nobody is.
holding you to it.
Nobody's seen Blade Runner more times than me. Nobody. I know that movie inside and out, and I know they're replicants, dipshit. Okay, so hearing Leon run his plot by President Debo, I don't care because these characters are so dumb. I did like the cockroach, so I thought that was good.
The cockroach I get you. The cockroach was a great idea, and the bug on the bug is funny. What I thought was absurd was the way that idiot was piloting the damn thing.
Yeah.
Why would you? I mean, he was on the corner of the desk. He was barely visible, and he could hear everything. He could see everything. But for some reason, they made this idiot bring this thing to the middle of the desk that is empty.
Yeah, because this
How
is
do
a
you
terrible
not see
movie.
this?
Because this is a terrible movie, and the director thought it would be funny if President Debo smashed it with his hand. Like,
Oh man!
okay.
No, he smashed it because he was holding his shoe because it was so much more interesting than what he was being told.
Yeah, because it was like Lloyd and fucking Harry in the fucking Oval Office.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Shall we get to our last scene and wrap it up, kids?
I think we
should.
better before this one loses his mind.
The four of them return to the temple on Earth as the great evil rushes towards the planet. There, Dallas finds Lilu disillusioned and unwilling to perform her role, believing that humans will destroy themselves despite her rescue of them. As the protagonists arrange the stones in the temple to form their weapon, they are briefly baffled by their ignorance of the weapon's operation, but discover that each stone is triggered by the presence of the classical element to which it corresponds. Dallas then convinces Lilu to perform her role, embraces her, and kisses her. At this time, Lilu releases the weapon's divine light, causing the great evil to become a new moon in Earth's orbit. Later, the president and General Monroe go to the reconstitution lab to congratulate Dallas on his successful mission, but he and Lilu are unavailable, despite the president's assertion that he's in a hurry. And we know why they're not available. So, Des, I know you have problems with this, and so do I. We're told that this being that has been chosen to represent herself as a female is powerful. She is going to save everybody, all life in the universe, or save humanity at least. And the only way that she can do that is by having a guy say that she loves her or he loves her. And I found this super disappointing. And also that scene where she's emitting the light, the focus is completely on Corbin Dallas the whole time. It's not on her.
It's a joke.
The camera itself never focuses on her. It's literally on him. And if you listen, he's doing the Die Hard scream through the whole thing.
Yeah,
so it's all about him.
Let's not gloss over another grossly ripped off scene. So as our heroes flee the cruise ship, it explodes like the Death Star, and they're in the fucking Millennium Falcon flying away from. And I'm just like, I'm yelling, "Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!" Jesus. So as that happens, you got President Debo popping tops on champagne bottles. A little premature here.
Yeah.
And where did they get the Dom Perignon on the fucking bridge of the fucking Death Star, wherever the fuck they are?
No, I think they're on Earth.
Okay,
they were in his office.
They're on Earth.
They
went.
He doesn't care. He doesn't
go to
care.
Go to the mini fridge and get me some Dom, and they're all popping Dom, and they're like, hold on, it's not over yet. So we're in the fucking little chamber there. At this point, the only thing I know for sure is that what I think I know for sure is that the fifth element is Lilo. And everybody in this movie is stupid as fuck. Okay. But it's not Lilu. It's not Lilu though, because had they tried to get Lilu to this location without her bumping into fucking our sleazy balding cab driver, she would have been powerless to save the universe. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
I think what he's trying to say is that the fifth element is not her. The fifth element is love. That's what the thing is. But
I don't know, because if you think about it, even if she doesn't run into Corbin Dallas, she's still the center of the stones.
Yes,
she's still the fifth element. I think the love part comes in because her studying history and everything that has transpired since she's been unconscious it just kills her. She's totally distraught. There's nothing worth saving in the world. And oh God, look at this. He's just losing it.
Because fucking the whole last fucking part of this movie, our fucking hero, who is Lilu, has been she's now unconscious and she's being dragged around by Corbin, and he's the hero. He's not equipped to be the hero. Fuck him. Why isn't she dragging his fucking?
Yeah, she should have been the hero.
His unconscious ass around. She should have been throwing him over the shoulder, dragging him around for the last 20 minutes of the movie, and then slapped him in his bitch face and kissed him and said, "I love you." And it would have been her call. But instead, he's like, "Wake up, little lady.
Well,
your hero is here to save the planet."
The worst part is when it comes to Lilu is, and she's supposed to, like you said, she's supposed to be the supreme being. And back on the Frost in Paradise, while the opera is going on, she's in the Diva's quarters, and she's kicking the shit out of all the Mangalores. And she's obviously a powerful being. She's just knocking these guys out left and right.
And you're going to tell me that she can kick the shit out of them, but she can't kick the shit out of Zorg?
Well, that's what bothered me most about the scene is she gets away from him and she's hiding from him up in the air ducts, and he's firing his silly ass impossible gun into the ceiling, and she's freaking out, and I guess she got shot.
Hold on, Pat.
And suddenly
that scene reminds you a little bit of a scene in a movie called Die Hard where the terrorists are poking the fucking ductwork and shooting up. Come on.
But the point I'm trying to make is how does she go from being this incredible warrior to this whiny little girl up in the air duct who's now completely helpless? How the hell does that happen?
Because Corbin's the hero of the movie.
I mean, it's disappointing. It's disappointing to me because she's the fifth element. She's gonna save us,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and then she and can't do it because she needs him to be like, I love you, and
Yeah, I submit. I would like to submit to the panel
I
that
submit.
Corbin is actually the fifth element because he's got the match. And this is a match they're going to call back from the beginning of the movie. The flame. It's his flame. This is like and I think this represents the flame of their love, the flame in his heart for her.
Ugh, where
So
do you
he's
come up
got
with
the
this?
match, he's got the fire. Go ahead.
I
Glenn.
would submit that there's a term and it's called Mary Sue, and this term is used when women write stories and they self-insert themselves as a character and make themselves the perfect character, and it's called being a Mary Sue. And I would submit that Luke Beeson wrote himself as Corbin Dallas, and this is basically a self masturbatory fantasy for him.
I would
And-
submit that you're dead on. Go ahead, Pat.
And I would like to submit that I have never said that Corbin Dallas was not the hero. I've always considered Corbin Dallas the hero of the movie. Lilu is just part of the story. But it would have been better for her character. Once you see her kick the shit out of those aliens in the Divas quarters, there's no denying the fact that she's a badass. But having her go to a sniveling little girl up in the air ducts,
Didn't
simply
work.
because Zorg was firing his impossible weapon into the ceiling, that made no sense to me.
No.
How is it it's like there was a switch flipped. How do you
Yeah.
become this badass? And then for no apparent reason, suddenly you can't walk.
And the
Oh,
character had no arc of growth. It's like this is the end of the movie.
She
wanna see a
devolves. She
yes,
devolves. She
de-
doesn't evolve.
Thank you. She devolves. I want to see a power we never knew she had at the end. So
Yeah.
instead of her, instead of her needing Corbin to say "I love you" to make this whole thing work, how about like she shows us this other power where she turns into this monster with a giant cock and shoves it up Corbin's ass,
Oh,
and that's how the
Jesus.
whole
Okay,
thing works.
okay.
Wow.
No.
The
Good
love,
Lord.
the love part of the story wasn't necessary for the
Agreed.
character.
She needed him
could've-
like a little bitch host at the end, and that was the
You
whole
could've-
trick.
You could have easily had Lilu wounded in the air ducts and fighting for her life because she's been shot, and Corbin's still the hero. I mean, you could have the entire ending of this movie take place and not have love have anything to do with it and make it a more acceptable ending. She's unconscious. She's fighting for her life. He's doing everything he can to get her where she needs to be so she can save humanity.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, I literally don't understand why she's unconscious. From the time that he gets her out of the air ducts to the time that she sets off the divine light.
Well,
Why
that's
is she
why
unconscious? Because at some point she's sitting up and she's looking at the computer and she looks up war and she's like, ooh, war.
It makes-
and I get
it-
it. That sucks. It's a total bummer. But at the same time, it's like, so she's unconscious because she learned about war? Like what?
Yeah, it makes no sense. Like you look
No,
at Star
right.
Wars, look at how strong Princess Leia was during the entire escape from the Death Star. It's not like she was knocked out and Han threw her over his shoulder and got her out of there.
No,
Yeah.
she
Like-
was a badass and
and
she's
she
taking
literally
charge.
just watched her entire planet blow up.
Yeah.
Everyone she's ever known in her life, her home blew up in front of her face.
Yeah, it was very
she,
disappointing.
And she, buckles down and gets fucking shit done because that's Princess Leia for you.
It was very disappointing. At the end, Lilu had no idea how to save everybody. It was up to Corbin to stumble upon this accidentally with his match and his fucking kiss and his "I love you." And it just didn't make any
Again,
fucking
The ending
sense.
was very disappointing.
That's why I insist that the end of this movie could have been a lot more acceptable and enjoyable if you didn't bring love into the picture in any way,
Agreed.
shape, or form.
Yeah. Well, I
Just
wish
the hero helping another main character who was critical to the saving of
Yeah.
the world and getting her to where she needs to be. You
Yeah.
could have taken love completely out of the story, and the ending could have been far more enjoyable.
Yeah, I
Agreed.
didn't need a love
Like-
story between her and Corbin.
No,
Well,
no,
here's
not
the
at
thing.
all.
I never see a love story happen between them. Like,
Me neither.
At what point is that actually happening?
He's a
They-
stalker.
They literally know each other for like, all told, like a couple of hours.
A couple
So
of
it's like-
days.
Well,
Couple of
not
days.
not even if you actually take they're asleep on the entire ride to Lost in Paradise, so they're not even
Right.
talking to each other, they're asleep. And so you have her falling into the cab, the little bit of time that he spends with her at Vito Cornelius's, the little
Vito
bit of time.
Corleone.
Yeah,
Vito Corleone.
Yeah, look who's talking, Ruby Road. Anyways,
No, I'm saying the name is very similar to Vito Corleone.
yes, it is.
Don't
so then
do that
and
when
then
I'm drinking coffee. It
sorry.
almost come out my nose.
Sorry. So then then they meet up to go on the plane again. Or like she comes to his house and she's hidden in the house for 2 seconds, and then they meet up on the plane, and then they switch, they lose each other on when they get there, and then he finds her in the diva's place. So it's like, when did they fall in love? There
Yeah,
was no
he-
time for that.
He tries to kiss her on the couch. She wakes up and puts a gun to his head. Is like, get
Yeah.
the fuck off me.
There's
um,
literally no time to fall in love for these two.
Yeah, the priest that's been put in charge of this whole operation has no idea that she needs to fall in love with a guy for this whole Fifth Element thing to work, because he's trying
Because it's
to
not
scare
true.
Corbin away at the beginning. He's saying, get the
Yes.
fuck out of here. I'll take control of this.
Yes.
But that's
Yeah.
just it. Love wasn't necessary
hmm
for her to do what she needed to do.
Yeah, that's
all
why I said,
all she needed to do was be in the center of those stones. The stones are activated. Their energy goes to her. She sends it up to the evil. Game over.
yeah.
So
well,
love was only brought into the story, from what I could see, was because after she reads about war and how people treat each other, and what's the point of saving humanity when this is what they do, and he tries to walk her off the edge by claiming that love is worth it, and that's where I lost all happiness to the end of this movie.
the director thought he was spinning a charming tale, and we were all falling in love with them falling in love, and I just wasn't. So I think what would have been fun is that at the end, we find out that she's not a man or a woman. She's the Fifth Element, and she actually took the form of a woman to make this sleazy fucking stalker cab driver fall in love, and she brought him to the final scene as a host and
And she eats
used
his
him.
brains.
Whatever it is, she needed a
Brains.
host, and she fucking just guts this guy at the end, and that's what creates the Fifth Element. Game over. All right, let's end this thing
Okay.
with some final thoughts. I will give you my final thought and my score. Oh no, before we do that, let's do the recasting couch.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Okay,
You go
So
first.
I've got a great one. So for the recasting couch, and I think this elevates the movie immediately, I would replace Thomas Jane as the president with one Billy D. Williams.
Okay.
Okay,
I
or
dig
Carl
that.
Weathers, or Carl Weathers.
Yeah,
Apollo?
no. Carl Weathers is just a cut above Debo in that role.
Oh,
Billy D.
God.
Williams ran Cloud City. He is fucking. He's
Okay.
qualified for the
Okay.
position.
Okay.
I don't need Apollo Creed as president.
Let me go next. So, since our Corbin Dallas is a sweaty mess,
Yeah.
I think that we should replace him with Nicolas Cage.
No, he's another balding,
Yes.
sweaty mess.
But that's the point.
Fuck him. Give me, give me a who was on the Titanic? Who was the
Leonardo
Leonardo?
DiCaprio?
no, the guy who
Oh,
was
Billy
the husband.
Zane.
Give me Billy Zane. Give me a sexy Billy Zane. Yeah. fucking what?
Also, I will just mention, even though Mickey is not with us tonight, she did send me her recasting couch via text, and she said that she would have recast Bruce Willis with Chris Hemsworth.
Pat, who is your recasting?
Well, I had a couple in mind.
All right, spit them out.
All right, I would replace Chris Tucker with Jamie Foxx,
Oh yeah, fuck
Okay.
yeah.
and I would replace Bruce Willis with the
Anybody?
Mel Gibson.
Yeah, I'm
Interesting.
fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Interesting.
Jesus, Chris Tucker was fine as Ruby Road. Whatever. I get why people like it.
Now
I
he's
get
just
why.
doing it on purpose.
I am. I'm not. I have no idea what his name is. I think Ruby Road would be cool because it's kind of a play on Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Ruby Slippers, Ruby Road. All right. I get why people like the character. It was just he just was unable to reel it in and make it something that was cohesive. It was over the top in a bad way for me. It didn't
Yeah.
work.
I mean, I feel like that was the point of that character, but I can see what you're saying. I think it's very polarizing. You either love it or you hate it.
I loved it for a minute, and then it went on too long, and it got manic, and it just got hard to watch.
I gotcha.
Okay, so let's do some final thoughts. I'll give you my final thought and my rewatch score. This movie sucked. Okay. With the end message being, even the most powerful, perfect woman ever to exist must first have sex with a balding, sleazy cab driver to overcome evil and save the universe. And they do this in a tanning bed. Corbin's love coupled with his Vienna mini sausage is actually the fifth element. Give me a fucking break. This movie blows. If you haven't seen it, don't. My rewatch score for this, just to assure that it falls beneath Neighbor, and it still might not. I was gonna give this a zero rewatch, because it is a zero rewatch, because I'll never watch it again. But I did like the opera singer, and I really, really liked the tweaker. I mean, it was a fucking amazing 15 seconds of film. So for those two reasons, I'm going to give this 0.01 rewatches.
Dude,
Don't tell me
Shocking.
my rewatch score. It's
Shocking.
0.01.
fine.
Good.
Which one of us?
You go ahead.
All right.
Killer's choice.
So I like the diva a lot. I think Milla Jovovich did the best she could with what she had, and I think she did a good job. Stop it. Stop it. You're not supposed to interrupt my score. Ugh. Yeah, shut your mouth.
What a dick.
God. The gloves are off for this one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think she was trying to do the best she could. She was given this weird language and told to act a little weird because she's an alien, and I get it. Like, she did the best she could with it. Stop making that face. You're a pain in the ass. I liked her. I know Gary Oldman hates this movie, but I liked him in it. I even like the little Tupperware on his head just because it's something different. I like the Jean-Paul Gaultier outfits. So, I feel like if you like sci-fi, give it a try. It's not the worst movie. It's not the best movie. I gave it a 3.2.
3.2, but
Yes.
Neighbors was a 1.5. Okay,
Yeah,
Pat, what's your
I
final
will never
thought?
watch that again, and I might watch this again. So there you go.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi in their prime are not
Listen,
as good as
let
this
it
fucking
go.
turd.
Let
Okay,
it go.
Pat, go ahead.
Okay. There was a lot I liked about this movie. There's a lot I didn't like about this movie. Being the action fan that I am, obviously my favorite parts of the movie came after they got to Fhloston Paradise. That's when the hero is actually becomes and does what the hero does. And of course, I'm all for massive gunplay and massive explosions. That's why I like Michael Bay films. But there was so much about it that I didn't like. I didn't like the love aspect they were trying to force down your throat between Lilu and Corbin. I couldn't stand Cornelius's assistant, David. He was the most sniveling little wuss that you could ever come across. And to send him to Egypt why in God's name would you have him go anywhere? Just leave him in the damn house and let him play on his computer. He was worthless.
Tell us how you really feel.
Okay, well, like I said, there were things I liked and things I didn't
Yeah.
like, and David was my least favorite character. I thought Chris Tucker as Ruby Rod was hysterical. Um, you got to remember it's this far into the future, so flamboyant and out of this world is what everybody's into. His popularity makes him the egomaniac that he is. I love the sound effects in his scepter and the recordings, and just the fact that everybody worshipped him and he was so not worth it. There are points where he turns and knocks a woman right off the scene from the hallway into a room, and he just didn't care because everything has to be green. And what in the name of fucking God does that mean? It's got to be green. Please explain to me. It's got to be green. Why the fuck does it got to be green?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Exactly. So there's things about this character that were absolutely ridiculous. I did like as they're going into the opera house, everyone he points out, he just tears apart. Baby Ray, everybody loves him. He's the most feminine character, and yet I don't know. I've watched this a few times, but I fast forward to a lot of crap, and I would have to give it a 3.5.
Okay, so for the listeners at home, Delynn spent her whole day yesterday, her day off, to create a new segment for the show. So we've done over 40 movies now, and she went back and she calculated the scores for each and every one of those movies and has compiled a list. Did you come up with a name for the list?
I do not have a snappy name for the list. If anybody would like to recommend something snappy.
Okay, so we're going to call it the Hey, Did You Ever See That Movie Snappy List. So she has made the Hey, Did You Ever See That Movie Snappy List, and she has ranked these movies in order with their scores.
Okay, so
Delynn,
I will tell you
with my zero and your 1 and Pat's 2.5.
No, that's not what the numbers were.
Those aren't right. Neither of
weren't
those
the
are right.
numbers. I am keeping close eye on the numbers, my friend. I will tell you that the number for this movie is 2.2366667, which lands it at number 29. Which makes it only one movie better than Streets of Fire, which is at 1.333.
Did he get his wish? Does Neighbors fall above this?
Yes.
Because that's what he's hoping for.
Yep.
There you go. See?
That's all that
Neighbors,
matters.
The cheer of victory.
Neighbors is
That's
at
all
number
he wanted.
27. I hope you're happy.
So
That's
let
all
me
he
tell
wanted.
our listeners something else. So on our sister podcast, Breaking Vinyl, we did Nothing Shocking, which is one of my favorite movies of all times.
Not
and
a
it
movie.
sits in the I'm sorry, my favorite albums of all times. And it sits in the basement as the very last album on the list. What the fuck is wrong with people? Okay. Great. So there it is. Delynn, will you tell the listeners where they can find the podcast?
You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We are at Hey, Did You Ever See That Movie on all of those platforms. And if you'd like to email us, you can at Hey, Did You Ever See That Movie at gmail.com. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple, Pandora, Google Podcasts, you name it, we're there.
All right. If you would like to write in and scream at me for my review of this movie, because I know it's going to be a polarizing review. I know a lot of you probably think that I was unfair, but I wasn't.
I mean, you gave it a 0.001 so that you could just make sure it was under Neighbors. I mean, like that was literally, you're like the biggest score whore going, and you literally did that.
Score whore, very good.
Yeah, well, that's mine from the from the album podcast. I'm called the Score Whore.
Because you have to understand, wait a second, hold on, let me finish. I just went through every single episode and listened to every scoring of every movie, and he scores higher than everybody every single time. So today was literally just a revenge. That's all it was. He
no,
knows it
no.
deserves more than 0.01. Like he just did
No,
that just to make
no.
sure it fell underneath neighbors.
No, this is the
This
God's
doesn't
honest
belong where
truth.
it is.
No, this is a God's honest truth. I had this as a 0. I gave it the 1%
No,
strictly.
you didn't even give it 1%. You gave it 0.01%. That's less than 1% by
Well, that's
quite a
more
bit.
than it deserved. Okay, so that
You
is
suck.
not a revenge score. That is
It is
my
a revenge
honest
score.
opinion.
And just you
No.
wait till the next time you give me another fucking hockey puck. Like, don't look up or fucking neighbors. Just you wait,
Listen.
Henry Higgins. Just you wait.
Listen, first of all, I'm a professional and I don't score movies. I don't sandbag movies for revenge. Okay.
Sure.
No. Second of all, please, okay, if you're a listener, please write in on this. Is Neighbors with John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd a 1? Is it a 1? Is it better than this movie? That's all I want to know.
All right, let's wrap
All
it
right.
up.
Let's wrap it up. So, as always, I enjoy watching movies from opposite ends of the house and discussing with you. Pat, I would like to thank you for pinch hitting tonight for Mickey. You did very well. You won the game. Way to go, kid.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. Next week, we will be back with Pat again because it is actually his turn to pitch in the rotation. We will be reviewing the original Lethal Weapon. I'm looking forward to this one, as this is an outlier in the series of Lethal Weapon movies. They did one like this, and then the rest really turned towards comedy. So it's going to be interesting to see what we thought of this one. So yeah, until next week, I have got just one question for you, and that is, hey, did you ever see that movie? See you later.